A self-imposed deadline has come and gone, but Iran and world powers are still trying to thrash out a framework agreement on Iran's nuclear program. UN Secretary of State John Kerry and Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Zarif have now gone into bilateral talks in Lausanne, Switzerland. They have so far been unable to resolve a number of core issues. France's Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius says he and his Russian and Chinese counterparts have left the talks for the time being.
We've made progress, but not on all points, and so I left my political director there. I'm maintaining contact with him, and as soon as necessary, I'll return there. My Russian colleague and my Chinese colleague have left. My American and Iranian colleagues remain, along with 2 other colleagues, but the President and I thought it was important to have an update on the situation at the cabinet meeting.
Our Hala Gorani is in Lausanne, where talks have gone into overtime. And Hala, despite the extension, many of the foreign ministers have already left.
Yeah, as you mentioned there, the French Foreign Minister, Laurent Fabius, has left. There are unconfirmed reports he may be on his way back. That's not something we've been able to confirm with his team at this stage. Although when we do have confirmation of this type of news, that the Foreign Minister of France is on his way back, it would be likely at that point to assume that something is shaping up here in Lausanne. Importantly, though, the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Zarif meeting several times today. The meeting's breaking in giving the delegations enough time for lunch. We understand they're meeting once again now. And the question is going to be, going forward on this day, will there be some sort of an announcement that lays out a framework of understanding for a more permanent agreement at the end of the month of June? There are sticking points. We understand those sticking points are about the pace of the lifting of sanctions against Iran. Iran wants them all lifted at once. Is it softening its position? That's going to be the big question. The other outstanding question as far as Iran is concerned is how much nuclear research and development will this deal allow it to conduct inside of Iran? A very long deal that could stretch up to 15 years into the future. And so Iran wants to make sure, from its point of view, that it's able to conduct the kind of R&D that would allow it to maintain a nuclear program. Western countries are saying we want to make sure that Iran cannot develop a weapon. We're all in pretty much a holding pattern here. I've asked the U.S. Secretary of State as he walked past me, will there be a deal this evening? No answer, just a smile. As far as the German delegation is still here. When we asked, will there be a deal this evening? The answer was, that's a good question. Lynda?
A very good question. Officials that have leaked, comments to some of the media seem to be saying that the framework deal as it stands has been watered down and is incomplete. How crucial is it for the US to push a deal through?
Well, you have to understand that the delegation here is doing the work of President Obama, possibly his most crucial foreign policy initiative, and that is to find a diplomatic deal with Iran over its nuclear program. But he faces a lot of opposition at home. If the Secretary of State goes back to Washington with something that looks either flimsy or incomplete or just a press release, it will give ammunition to those who oppose the deal in Washington. So it's extremely important for the Americans in particular, those, after all, who imposed this who imposed this deadline of March 31st on the talks, to come back with something tangible. So it's very important. That's why, and you can see here the political will coming from the U.S. delegation and the Secretary of State, there is a real effort being made to come up with something after 7 days of marathon talks here in Lausanne, Lynda.
And it could be a few more days to come. Hala Gorani in Lausanne, thank you very much. And coming up this hour, we're covering all the angles surrounding the nuclear talks. Reza Marashi from the National Iranian-American Council is in Lausanne, keeping a very close eye on those developments as well. He'll join me for a closer look at what a deal could mean for all sides. Also, how does oil fit into the economic equation? Emerging Markets editor John Defterios will have that angle. And we'll go to Jerusalem, where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu continues to warn of disastrous consequences if a deal is sealed.